It's hard to put in perspective how important diesel is in producing food. So we're going to take a trip into the past, 1910 Asia, see how it is to grow food compared to today. Diesel prices running away. Our food is going to get incredibly expensive. So it is time to get prepared for these changes that are here, whether they're planned or whether they're organic. Now, many of you knew I was moving over to Taiwan, but you're thinking of Taipei, north. But in actuality, I'm down in the south, food growing region. I'm going to focus on rice today because it is so important to understand. Small farm holders, large farms, it all runs on diesel. And I am in this small agricultural area. Well, the entire southern part of Taiwan's agricultural. And I would be such a hypocrite if I moved into the middle of a city and said, hey, everybody get prepared and, know your local farmers, get your fingers in the ground, understand where the food comes from, be in the middle of that supply chain. Doesn't matter what nation you go to, you can get yourself in the middle of the supply chain. Taiwan, it's an island. Yeah, there's a huge population up north, but all down south, it's agriculture. So I would place myself in an agricultural area if you can. And the whole name of the game now is knowing where your food comes from, be the first in line for food and get it at the cheapest price you can, because moving forward, everything's going to start it's going to be beyond believable the way the food prices are going to move in the future, shortly from now. So let's take a look at the U.S. diesel price. Consumer sentiment, how happy, how confident people are, economy will be better tomorrow. Unimportant at the moment. Diesel price $5.61. It went, from $3.50 to well over $5.50 in just a couple of months. This is unprecedented in terms of the shock. So the point of the video is taking you back in time so you can see how difficult it was to produce food and how easy it is now with machines and diesel. If we lose part of the diesel, we lose the machines. If we lose the machines, we're winding the clock back. So let's take a look. We're going to jump into Japan. Circa 1910. Now, if you're going to do it by hand, you're going to have to use this scythe. Beware, you're going to cut yourself if you're a first timer. It takes a full day to do just what you can see, that rice going in the back there. Just an acre, maybe a little more. This is so time consuming. You have to think about entire villages would step out to do this at a time. But forward to modern day, I found the machine on the side of the road. I saw they were harvesting in our area here, so I found the machine and just followed it up. Took a walk over there. Look how fast this is. Can you imagine what they were doing in 1910, the productivity gains comparatively to what we have now with machinery? Yeah, the birds do get a few extra, grains of rice, but back then the losses were up somewhere 10% on the hand harvesting, because as you harvested by hand, grains would fall off. Very inefficient. You were getting losses from the field just on doing that initial cutting process before you even did anything else in the entire step. So I know a few of you are a fan of the egrets in the background, me too. But the efficiency is unbeatable. And when I say that, if we lose our diesel or lose our machines, or the machines slow down because of lack of diesel, or it gets so expensive, our food production globally is going to get knocked back so far that our civilization is actually going to fracture at that point from lack of food. And in the old days, after you cut it, as you saw in the field, then you would have to separate the grains of rice from the plant, and they put it in this tooth-combed type of thing. You can see how many grains there are. It's very, seedy for a better term. And you have to pull it through and separate that. But again, there was a lot of loss. There was still some grains left on the grass that people will go to. Now, not so much. With the machine, it cleans literally 100%. And how the extra grass is kicked back, and you can use that for an enormous amount of things. You do the animal feed, or you can leave it in the field for next year to turn it under. But I wanted to go into the teeth and the mechanism for this grain separation here. Again, if we're going to try to do anything by hand in our world, very few people know how to do it, but the gains of efficiency are literally 100x using machinery. I mean, you're talking about 10 people for an entire day doing what this machine did in 15 to 20 minutes.
Here's what your financial advisor won't tell you. By the time the news tells you to buy gold, it's too late. You're waiting. I get it. Everybody's waiting to see if the ceasefire holds, waiting to see if the Strait of Hormuz reopens, waiting to see what happens next. But gold isn't waiting for you. It moves on fear and instability into the unknown, and it moves faster than you can react. So while you're waiting for certainty, the rest of the world is planning for what comes next. You can wait or you can prepare. You can't do both. Remember, the best time to put on a seatbelt is before the accident, not after. If you're ready to act, reach out to Noble Gold Investments. They help Americans protect their savings with a physical gold and silver shipped to your door or held in a tax-advantaged IRA. No taxes, no penalties to roll over a 401k or existing IRA. Visit 2030gold.com and download your free wealth protection kit today. That's 2030gold.com. The rules are changing. Make sure you're ready. And the May Gold Bonus for a limited time offer a free 10th ounce gold coin for all new qualified accounts. Please note, coin selection is based on available inventory. Again, that's 2030gold.com. Click on that link in the description box below.
Now, planting it as well, we'll come into that, but it's going to need some fertilizers. And they also do it by machine. Again, a full day planting that out. Lucky enough to get closer, you can really see how this thing can get in and separate out the grains. It's same as that comb was, exactly the same. But in terms of speed, efficiency, and not breaking the grains, I know you wanted to watch this thing go down the hill. It's got these tracks on it, so even if it's wet, it won't get bogged down. Now, this is a dry type of rice comparatively to wet harvest. So two different animals there. No pun intended. Taiwan, beautiful. And then after it was harvested and separated, they would have to bring it to an area and smash it through this. They're trying to separate the hull off of the rice. But again, the efficiency of taking it to a factory today to do that instead of doing it on site in every village, some villages less efficient. So look how much this is able to hold one long ton, 2,200 pounds before it fills up. And what Ifan Mu D, like Ifan Mu, is the measurement here in Taiwan. It's a little bit over a quarter acre, and you're looking about a ton coming off of each one of those. So what you saw the machine doing was approximately Ifan. Grains coming out. This goes to another processing facility, and again, what do you see? That truck. It is going to use diesel to run it to the facility. Then the facility uses electricity. Depends on where that comes from and its generation capacity. But from start to finish, from the planting to the fertilizer application to the harvesting and then taking it to the factory, without diesel, or if the diesel price increases and doubles and triples, quadruples from here, every single thing along the line is going to be affected. So this truck can hold approximately 5 tons at a time. I'd stop and talk to the guys for a minute. About 5 tons, and then they're going to run. They got 2 trucks there. They're backed up. So this is a 10-ton run that they're doing. Local farms. Nobody's large holders here. Nothing's on the 100,000 acre. There's nothing like that. If you got 2 acres here, I mean, that's a vast land holding, because EFUN is, we're talking like, let's say we'll round it down to a quarter of an acre so we understand equivalence. If you got 3, you're booming here. That's not even a full acre of land, and you're like, wow. Or a quarter acre, half acre of land. That's a large holding in Taiwan. Land is so incredibly valuable and expensive. And then this thing, just takes off and does another pass. So you can see Ifan Mudi is up there at the top. That little square is a little more than a ton. Then in the old days, what they would have to do is after they had run it through and separated the holes off of that, they would have to run it through some sort of fan blower. Separate the wheat from the chaff, for a better term. Today, we just take it to the factory and it's done en masse. That is the difference in efficiency. Unless you put it into this kind of context where you can see it on the ground, it is staggering, the difference in what we could feed this planet with. Going back in history, average carrying capacity of our planet was about 500 million to maybe 750 million for the last 8,000 plus years. That's all we could do by hand. Fossil fuels have allowed us to bring it up to 8 billion or so. Without the fossil fuels, what happens to the human population here on the planet? It's going to decline. There's no other way. You tell me 8,000 years of history of people doing it, what you saw in 1910 in Japan. That's all the calories they could produce with human labor. and including oxen, bring an animal in or two. Steam comes, things ramp up. Oil comes, whoa. Diesel comes, wow. Green revolution. Then we have the fertilizers in addition to the machinery. This is all declining. This is rewinding right now. So it's very important to see where the fertilizers are going, where the diesel's going in the availability, because if these machines don't run, our food doesn't come. You're back harvesting by hand because it could grow, but the efficiencies of getting it, your food doesn't double or triple at that point. It's a 10x. That's the perspective you're going to be looking at here. So diesel at the pump, US versus the UK. Who's going to get smacked harder? $1.47 a liter. Now remember, where you're doing gallons, so let's round up 4. We'll say 4 liters is a gallon. I know it's not exact, but it's easy math. If we go over per liter into the UK, that's a £1.86, but in the exchange rate brings that up to $2.50 a liter. That's $10 a gallon almost in US equivalent. Think about that for a second. How do you run farm machinery on something that costs double the input going over into Europe? So Europe's going to face the food shortages first, just because of costs going into it, and fertilizers as well. Then we jump down to Australia here. This is petrol cents per liter. And again, the Australian dollar, depending on the exchange rate, or you're going against the pound or the dollar, but anyway, it is less than a US dollar. But still, location, you're up in Sydney. On the 18th, it went up to $2.05 or $2.05. One day later, it's at $2.07. May 20th, 3 days later, it's $2.09. Thursday the 21st at $2.11. Friday, it's at $2.11.9. See, it went up from 211.4 to 211.9. They got to slow it down. People are noticing the 1 cent jump per day, but if they can cut it down to half a cent so you don't notice, after 2 days, it only goes up 1 cent. That takes us into uncharted territory in terms of our farming. Like, we've never experienced this before. There's nothing really to compare it to. You could say, yeah, the disruption of World War I or World War II, but I mean, barely anything was used in World War I in terms of machinery. So that's really, you can't even compare that. World War II, well, yeah, okay, Victory Gardens came around, but in terms of mechanized farmmanship, we haven't even had the green revolution yet. So fertilizers were mainly natural. We weren't at the factory production of nitrogenous fertilizers, which allowed agriculture to really boom. Diesel fuel, machinery improvements on harvest, and then also the different nitrogenous fertilizers. Both of those are, well, reversing back in terms of amount available for our planet. Hence, population is going to decline just based on these simple math and simple history overlays. So again, all these photos I'm taking, these are all mine because, I'm out in the farm country. I have dogs. We get up early and walk the dogs. It gets really hot. If you're not up at like 5:15, 5:30, and before that sun starts blazing over the hill, by 6:37, it's scorching already. So you need to be up early. So I get a lot of photos either at sunset or sunrise because it's too hot to walk in the day. Wait till sunset. It cools down a little bit, smidgen. This is the rice planting that's done by machine as well. The fertilizer applied by machine. This is in its infancy stage, a few weeks after it's been planted. It's really small when it starts, and then it kind of bushes out. There's a small little area up near where farm country is where you want to be. It's nice little roads like this, areas. This is what I would consider a medium-sized rice field area. And you can see the grains actually starting to hang over. That's when the rice is getting toward maturity, and you can see how many small grains are on it. But if you just want to do a comparison, on the right, that's still in the grass stage. On the left has gone to the seed stage, or what you consider rice as a food staple, because this is actually a grass variety. And you can see the grain heads starting to rip off on the left. Still got a month and a half or so on the right. But the fertilizer shortages, this is coming from industry experts. And I did a post on this up on my Patreon channel, dissecting this a little bit greater detail, more slides. CEO of domestic phosphate fertilizer producer Itafos expects shortages of fertilizers to eventually reduce the world's grain supply. Okay, we're looking at history now, are we not? Then off of Brownfield Ag News, we got some really high level people here. telling us that fertilizer prices at the very, very high end are going to stick around for a long time. And Phospolution's CEO talking about fertilizer supply challenges in the US are becoming structural, meaning permanent versus temporary. So the rubber's starting to meet the road where the high levels are coming out now saying we have a huge problem with supply. Now, structural, you're going to hear this word more and more in the news. It just means permanent. But again, it's like business jargon. So just when you hear structural, it's permanent. And when I say, remember when inflation was transitory? Well, that's just another way to say temporary. So, just bring it down into easy to use English. But across the board now, they're saying fertilizers are not going to be available. And if they are going to be available, they're going to be incredibly high priced. But then we're hearing the same thing with the diesel. It's either not going to be available or it's going to be incredibly high priced. And every day we're looking, it's going up in price more and more. So a lot of people are putting around July for America to sort of reach some apex. A little bit earlier in June around the rest of the planet where it's going to start to get into that apex and then shortage kind of scenario. Although the Strait of Hormuz did open and there have been some tankers. I know just one got delivered up to Japan just yesterday. It made the news here across Taiwan. A couple more tankers coming into Taiwan. There's a couple getting up into Korea. China's bringing in a few. So there's at least 7 full tankers come rolling in. And I think they're holding them anywhere from 1.5 million to 2 million barrels per. They're VLCCs. So there is oil coming back to Asia first here, which is, well, a promising thing to see. Now, there is enough diesel right now to get the rice harvest out for this year across Asia. It's going to cost more, but the harvest is being accomplished now. As we swing into alternative plantings, because those fields aren't going to sit idle, they're going to roll them. What are they going to do for fertilizer, seed, and diesel? That's the question for next planting. And I did want to roll you through a couple, just for basic knowledge on rice. I mean, you could take this anywhere, and scales of magnitude, 5 acres at a time, but its size, its scale, these are all really small land holdings. So it's starting off in the grass stage. And again, if you get out early in the morning, you got the dew all over it. If it's rained a little bit the night before, that's why they always harvest later in the day. They don't want the dew on it. And then you can see the emergence coming out where what was the previous grasses that were wrapping the seeds start to actually open up. And that is the rice that you're looking at. And eventually, as you move forward, the seeds widen out, or the rice itself. It's a grass variety again, and then at the end of it, you can really see where it's bunched out. Now that's where they started back in 1910, where they had to actually cut that by hand and pull it through the teeth. Now we do it with the machine, and it's getting a little tingy toward the orange here. There's a smell that comes off. It's quite the unique, quite wonderful smell. I can't even describe it to you, this smell of rice right when it turns, when you know it's time to harvest it. When you walk around, you just smell it in the field that it's that time. It's an incredibly pleasant, and just intuitively, that's ready to get harvested. I can't explain it to you. You have to experience it. But what is going to be experienced by all of us is the agricultural commodity lagging fertilizer price disruption. Ouch, going to hurt you in the supermarket. Bloomberg Ag Index is the red. That follows the fertilizer prices on the spike. We're getting both, and the diesel, and the disruptions. Again, but if you look in America here, it's fertilizer costs, loss of markets, tariffs. And now we could add in increasing cost of fuels as well. You could just probably put 6 or 7 more silos down here. And farm bankruptcies, 46%, because they weren't prepared for these price increases. But the bigs will be in there. And speaking of bigs, this is the largest rice field that I have seen here in Taiwan. I photographed it on purpose just because this is a huge one. But in the context, you can't even see the end of the fields in America. And this is one of the largest rice fields here. But the whole point of the video is, thank you for watching. And understanding that diesel drives our food economy and fertilizers as well. When they're incredibly high, disrupted, not available, then everything we eat is not available or greatly reduced. So as you're working with your Rubik's Cube of possibilities to get ready for these changes, please put this into context. Share this video with other people too, so they get an idea of how important it is. It's not just like you hear about, okay, the fertilizers getting disrupted, diesel, but to put it in how difficult it was to produce rice back in the day compared now with the machines. And this is the same. If you go back and look at the 1930s with corn harvesting in America or wheat harvesting, you're going to see exactly the same. Why do you think they snug it in and put it up in those, drying bushels? And then, birds will come in, we get inclement weather, we get wet again. They got a lot of losses in the crops. We don't have that happen anymore. So the efficiencies of us doing it by machines, our civilization runs on this. And as I said, I've been putting more posts up on Patreon trying to dissect this using industry experts, writing out a little bit longer post content to let you get a good idea. So subscribestar.com/DAP2030, patreon.com/DAP2030. Links in the description box below. We're all in this together. And again, please subscribe to the channel. You're going to have to click that like, notify, bell thing because the algorithm's just knocking everybody here, there, and everywhere on it. But you're also going to have to copy this link and share it in your social media. I appreciate your time. Really do hope you got something out of this to frame it, put it in perspective, what we're up against here. This is no light matter any longer. We're at the point of rollover now where it's noticeable to every business on the planet that we're just behind the 8 ball in terms of supplies. So they're going to start raising prices right now.